Hello everyone, welcome to Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services. It's a video on daily news and editorial analysis, which I'll be covering from the Hindu and Indian Express. The most important news and editorial of the day that is relevant for the preparation of civil services examination will be discussed in this session. Let's get started with the news topic list. Today is 3rd of January. The first important news that is Supreme Court uphold centered decision on demonetization. Second, about the new delimitation exercise that is ongoing in Assam. Third, online game must registered with a self-regulatory body. Second last, state may push for debate on the center scheme cesses. And the last is an editorial towards reducing India's prison footprint. Apart from the news and editorial discussion, at the end of this video, there will be MCQ based questions. These questions will be based on current affairs that will help you for the upcoming prelims examination. So without any further delay, let's get started. And before I begin this session, those of you who are new to our channel, do not forget to subscribe Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services on YouTube. If you like this video, if you find this video informative and helpful, do press a like button. Starting the session with the first news, that is Supreme Court uphold center decision on demonetization, something important for General Studies paper 2, that is structure, organization and function of executive and judiciary. So more than 6 years after the center government has decided on the demonetization part, this was on year 2016 November that government has come up with the policy measures to demonetize and discontinue the notes of 1,000 rupees and 500 denominations, right? And the Supreme Court, in its 4:1 majority verdict, has recently upheld the 2016 move by the central government. So 5 bench की judge basically जो पूरी judgment आई है, that was headed by a bench of 5 judges, and among them 4 has actually favored and 1 judge has dissenting note on this. The court said that the decision-making process was not flaunted merely because the procedure was emanated by the government. So basically, the point that Supreme Court has specifically looked upon or focused upon was the process of the decision-making of the demonetization. Neither the Supreme Court has approved that this was a right decision. They have only approved that yes, the process that was involved, जो डिसीजन मेकिंग ली गई है, क्या वो ड्यू प्रोसेस ऑफ लॉ को फॉलो की गई थी या नहीं, इस पे प्ली फाइल की गई. और जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जजेस है, 5 bench जजेस, उन्होंने ये रिमार्क्स दिए, यस द प्रोसेस वाज करेक्ट, राइट. They have never given any remarks what was the intention of the government, whether this was correct or not. They were more precisely looking into the part of decision making process by the government. The top court judgment come on a batch of 58 petitioners that challenging the demonetization exercise announced by the center in November 8, 2016. Now, some observation that was made by Honorable Supreme Court, the 5-judge bench has that this was a constitutional bench of the Supreme Court noted that the decision to scrap the high-value currency note does not suffer any legal or constitutional flaws. तो जो process follow की गई है, जो due process of law follow की गई है, इसमें it's something, it's important, and even the central government has taken the complete note of that. The court has also noted that there was consultation made to RBI and union government within like 6 months prior. A consultation was made, but a point to be highlighted. The RBI in its note has categorically noted that in the light of the decision by the central government, everywhere RBI has said that this was more a central government inclinations which RBI has given a favor of, right? So it was not wholesome an idea which encapsulated from RBI's end, but central government ने opinion मांगी, तो RBI ने हर जगह पे ये कहा है कि central government को opinion मांगने के on the behalf of central government, the RBI is giving its assent. The court also observed that the decision being as an executive economic policy and this cannot be reversed, right? The apex court has said that 52-day window for the exchange of demonetized note was with a legal tender was not unreasonable and it cannot be extended now. Now, some dissented opinion that is coming from the Supreme Court. As I've told you, it was a 5 bench of the constitutional bench, जिसमें 4 ने असेंट किया इसको और 1 जो जज थे उन्होंने डिसेंट किया. सो व्हाट वाज हिज ओपिनियन? जस्टिस M.B.V. Nagaratan has dissented from the majority judgment On the point, it said that the center power under the section 26(2) of the RBI Act, it says that scrapping of a note of 500 and 1000 series note had to be done through the legislation and not through the notification. India is the largest democracy in the world. तो डेमोक्रेसी की एसेंस के लिए इन्होंने कहा कि इस तरह की पॉलिसीज में एक बाकायदे डिस्कशन होनी चाहिए थी पार्लियामेंट में विद द अपोजिशन एंड अदर लीडर्स सो दे आर अवेयर ऑफ द फैक्ट. And this large decision, a huge decision which is impacting the masses, should not become directly through a notification by the central government. So this is what the opinion was there from the dissenting note. While the other judges have favored the center decision on demonetization and said that the decision to scrap the high value notes cannot be said as unreasonable and struck down on the ground that decision making process में किसी भी तरह की फ्लॉज थी या किसी भी तरह की डिफिकल्टीज आई थी. सो द प्रोसेस द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट हैज एक्चुअली इनकॉर्पोरेटेड वाज ऑन लाइन एंड द पैरामीटर्स ऑफ द रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशंस. Now sections 2 of the RBI Act काफी important है आपके लिए समझना. From here you can get a question directly in the prelims examination also, and if you're writing in mains, make sure you highlight this section as well. So the majority judgment of the Supreme Court has noted that the power available to the center under section 26 subsection 2 of the RBI Act cannot be restricted to mean that it can exercise only for some series of the note and not for all series of the note. तो यहाँ पे कोई series of numbers इस section के अंदर mention नहीं की गई है. So that is the right that government has actually used, and merely because the two earlier occasions, the demonetization exercise was plenary legislation, and it cannot be held that such power is not available to the central government. So it's a broad spectrum of laws where the central government has actually used this section and invoked the power. The bench has said that section 26(2) does not provide an excessive legislation in a matter, that there is a inbuilt safeguard. In such power has to be exercised on the recommendations of the RBI Central Board, and it's not liable to be struck down. So although a unanimity was there between the central government and the RBI, तो इन दोनों की coordination की वजह से ही ये decision possible हो पाई है. And even the petitioner has argued the entire intention of the government was nullified in the process that was involved in the demonetization process does not cover the entire rules and regulation. But इस चीज को खारिज करते हुए सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कैटेगोरिकली कहा है कि जो प्रोसेस गवर्नमेंट ने इंप्लीमेंट किया है दैट इज करेक्ट. नाउ सेंटर रिस्पॉन्स. द सेंटर रिसेंटली टोल्ड द टॉप कोर्ट इन एन एफिडेविट दैट द डिमोनेटाइजेशन प्रोसेस हैज followed a well construction decision and it was a part of the larger strategy to combat the menace of fake currency. कई ऐसी fake currency की circulations भी economy में थी. Even terror financing was a big concern, black money and tax evasion. So the central government has cited this reason behind and rationale behind the demonetization. Now, depending the exercise, the Union government has told the Apex Court that the decision was taken after extensive consultation with the Reserve Bank of India and advanced preparation that were made before the note that was enforced. Now, moving to the other news about new delimitation exercises by the Assam. Something important for General Studies Paper 2. That is the government policies and intervention for the development of various sectors and issues arising from a design and implementations. So recently, the Election Commission of India, that is the ECI, has begun the process of delimitation of the assembly and parliamentary constituency in Assam, right? In March 2020, the central government has notified the delimitations commissions for Jammu and Kashmir, Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur, and Nagaland. So this is important as an examination purpose. You can utilize this in the mains exam. Now, what is delimitation exercise all about? Already UPSC has asked question in the prelims examination. This was for the year 2015 or 16. Do check it out. So delimitation is a process of redrawing boundaries of Lok Sabha and state assemblies constituencies based on the recent census to ensure that the seats of almost are equivalent to the voters. Right? In proportion to that, the distributions are made. It is ideally carried out after every census by an independent delimitations commissions formed under the provisions of Delimitations Commissions Act. Now, populations of Assam की अगर बात करें, in 1971 the population of Assam was 1.46 crore. Now in 2001 it has increased to 2.66 crore, and to 2000 and further in 2011 it has reached up to 3.12 crore. Now, why it was put on hold, why the Assam's delimitations was not being done for a long period. So basically, the delimitation panel were set up thrice in 1952, 1962, and 1972, regularly before the exercise, and it was suspended in 1976 in the view of family planning program in the state government. Now, the latest commissions has submitted its report in 2002 before the exercise was completed, and the delimitations for the fourth northeastern state were deferred due to the security risks that the Ministry of Home Affairs has also taken a note of. Now, apart from the law and order, various organizations in Assam were opposed to delimitations in 2009 as they wanted it to be done only after updating the National Register citizen without weeding out the illegal immigrant, because एनआरसी की अगर बात करें यहाँ पे एनआरसी की कंसर्न को देखते हुए भी गवर्नमेंट ने चीजों को डिले की थी. Now, opinion of the political parties, although this is not very much relevant, but to give you a broad picture, it is necessary to read that. The central government has constituted the delimitations commissions for the fourth northeastern state and union territory of Jammu and Kashmir in March 6, 2020. The exercise was enacted by the Section 8A of the Representation of the People Act by the Election Commission of India, initiating the delimitations and 2001 की जो census है उस हिसाब से. Section 8A only allows the reorientations in the rule, any changes in the total numbers of the parliament and assembly constituencies. Now, government stand की अगर बात करें, Assam Chief Minister said that the delimitation can provide safeguards at the NRC and Assam Accord of 1985 envisaged but have actually failed. He also stressed that the political leaders are not worried about losing out more seats for the reserve constituencies, specifically for the ST and SC after delimitations, and indicating that the rearrangement of seats between basically Muslim as a deciding factor. So there are a lot more political tussles, and basically when you talk about the calculations and the voter part, there are a lot more things that is taking place in terms of caste also. So there are three regions, that is Bajali, Vishwanath, and Hajoli. Basically, Hajoi is merged with the three parent district that has been sizable Muslim population. So these are also the concern with regards to the Muslim votes that will be there in Assam as well. Moving to the other news, online games must register with the self-regulatory body, something important for General Studies Paper 2, that is the government policies and intervention for the development of various sectors and issues arising from a design and implementations. So recently, the Electronic and Information Technology Minister has proposed a self-regulatory body to certify what is permitted in online game in India, and it's all set to begin the public consultations for the draft online gaming policies. The released draft will have a consultations with other stakeholders, and final rules are expected in early February next month. This industries basically जो consultation की जानी है stakeholders से, उसमें gaming startup के industries के लोग हैं. The companies are also there. Investors, players will be the part of the decision making and the discussion process. Now, there's a particular provisions of grievance redressal mechanism and verifications. The draft had proposed a grievance redress mechanism and mandatory verifications of the players and physical Indian address on online gaming companies in India that is operating, and some startup that is also seeded. This comes just after the IT ministry was appointed as a nodal ministry for online gaming. A very important point for the prelims examination, a direct question can be framed, which is the nodal ministry for online regulation of the games in it. The online gaming intermediaries shall promptly publish the websites, mobile based जो उनकी applications है, random number generations, ये सारे onboard certificates उनको upload करने होंगे so that it can be verified whether the details or authentications are correct or not. It has also appointed a grievance officer. They will also have to appoint a grievance officer who will be an employee and resident of India. So NRI in this part is not allowed. A very important point for the prelims examination. A statement can be given whether the NRIs are allowed or not. So the correct answer will be no, the NRIs are not allowed. Basically, any foreigners, this should be an Indian citizen, right? And as a compliance officer will be appointed in accordance to the law as per the law enforcement agencies. Now, rule of law, whatever we have discussed, that is in a nutshell, it's given here. The proposal aims to bring an online gaming within the ambit of the Information Technology Intermediaries Guideline and Digital Media Ethics Code 2021. It is not clear whether the games recognized in the codes are games of skill with the continue to be liable to operate under the policies, and this model is similar to the rules in the place of digital news sites and streaming services under the RTI rules, basically in the under IT rules. Now, moving to the other news, states may push for debate on the center's scheme and cess, something important for General Studies Paper 3, that is the government, basically with regards to the Indian economy, issues related to planning, mobilization, resource growth, and development. The center has organized 3-day conference where the state representative will have a meeting from the official of the central government, and there will be a coordinations between the state government official and the central government officials in terms of the discussion, and this is a pre-discussion before the union budget. So ahead of the union budget, the discussion is expected to see the states raising the issues of high control of the center with regards to the welfare schemes, especially coming in the backdrop of discontinuations of food grain schemes beyond December, because government ने नेशनल फूड सिक्योरिटी एक्ट जो है नेशनल फूड सिक्योरिटी एक्ट के थ्रू जो दिसंबर इस साल के अंत तक बेसिकली फ्री ग्रेन देने की बात की, बट द पॉलिसीज विच वाज देयर बाय द प्रधानमंत्री गरीब कल्याण अन्न योजना हैज बीन डिसकंटिन्यूड. The focus area की अगर बात करें इस मीटिंग की, the focus areas on the high share of the fund to the states, review of the center sponsored scheme, and a clamor to prune cess on increasing the divisible pool of the revenues between the central government and the state government. Now, cess and the state government concern, definitely the number of and the amount of the cess has increased. It has been doubled from the central government part, और पूरी contribution जो है cess की वो central government bear करती है, अपने पास रखती है. The increasing share of the cess is overall concern for the state government because they do not have share on that part. Many states presenting the higher fiscal autonomy by asking the review of the levy of the cess and such charges बहुत ही minimal, and even the state has been demanding for higher contribution to the state as well. The demand for high borrowing limits to increase the fiscal space available to the states, enhancement of fund under the scheme for special assistance for the capital investment, and limiting the scope of central sponsored scheme has also expedited to be raised by the state government. So these are some of the important issues that will be discussed before the central government by the state government representative in the recent conference that is going to be held, and this is considered to be a pre-budget discussions and a coordinations between the center and the state government. Now, fiscal autonomy is something very important in the pre-budget meeting. The state has also highlighted the issues of fiscal autonomy to the states. The state like Tamil Nadu, Bihar has called for limiting the center-sponsored scheme starting, and also called for more fund should increase in the share of the transfer of state partners. Chhattisgarh has sought the funds for implementation of the old pension schemes. The government has levies, including the health and education, additional duties on fuel, road, infrastructure, which do not form the part of the divisible pool. The share of the cess and surcharges has increased to 8.16% to the gross tax revenue, and this is 21.5% in 2021 and 28.1% in the gross tax revenue for 2021 and 22. So these are the data that, if you remember, can utilize in the mains paper as well. Now, these are the shares of the states in terms of the center released 17,000 crore to the states on, and this is the compensation that was released. The news is, this image is not the recent one, it's the recent, this is precisely for the year. Maharashtra की contribution सबसे ज़्यादा है, followed by Karnataka, Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, Tamil Nadu, Punjab, Gujarat, West Bengal, Jharkhand, Kerala, MP, Andhra Pradesh, Haryana, and Telangana. Now, there's also a conference that is there between the National Chief Secretaries Conference. The second national conference of the Chief Secretaries will be held in Delhi from 5th to 7th of July. Various sectors group across the ministries and different are working towards a broad spectrum जहाँ पे discussion की जानी है, and this will also include some of the important areas. Now, MSME, employment creations, educations, agriculture, urban governance. Official has said that the infrastructure project pipeline and the PM Gati Shakti project, also the national infrastructure pipeline, will be the main agenda for the discussions between the Chief Secretaries Conference. Moving to the editorial of the day, towards reducing India's prisoner footprint, something important for General Studies Paper 2, under the subtopic that is welfare schemes for the vulnerable section of the population by the center and the state government. Now, what are the issues under this editorial? Before we jump into the issues, let's see what is the theme. The theme is about the prisoners in India and their concern. There is a issue with regards to the call for coordinations, construct a district prisoner complex, rethink of the architecture, defund prisoners, and the way forward. So this editorial is written on the premise and the background, which highlights the recent address of the President of India. And the President of India during his recent Constitution Day celebration, as which was organized by the Supreme Court of India, the President of India has shared a snippet of her journey with the audience and how the things are working in the ground reality. Now, she reflected that her visit to the prisoner across the India and circumstances those were incarcerated. ऐसे लोग जिनको प्रेजेंट किया गया, क्या क्या ऐसी परेशानी है जो अभी भी एग्जिस्ट करती है इंडिया के जुडिशरी सिस्टम एंड इवन द बेल प्रोसेस एंड द थिंग्स आर नॉट वर्किंग इन द राइट डायरेक्शन. She highlighted that these individuals were often not aware of their fundamental rights. जो एक individual right constitution guaranteed करती है वो भी लोगों को नहीं पता because they are not aware, and it has been incarcerated to the prolonged. Incarcerated means to be prison for the prolonged period. The minors and with the families struggling with poverty and unable to get out bail. And there are a lot of other mess that is taking place in the Indian jail system and the criminal justice system. जहाँ पे अगर बात करें जुडिशरी की एक प्रोएक्टिव रोल होनी चाहिए और प्रिजनर्स की जो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव फंक्शनिंग है इट्स नॉट दैट ग्रेट. Now, call for coordinations. Definitely, the President of India has emphasized that how the judiciary, executive, and legislature must come together and conclude by asking that are we calming the progress of the nations by still building the prisoners to address the issues of overcrowding. She actually mean to say that अगर हम ऐसी इंडिया बना रहे हैं जहाँ पे अभी भी we are talking about progress, but at the same time we have to also see that the overcrowding की वजह से हमें और कॉम्प्लेक्सेस बनानी पड़ी. तो इसकी ज़रूरत ही क्यों है? क्यों ना क्राइम को ख़त्म किया जाए, प्रिवेंशन पे ध्यान दी जाए, ना कि जेल बनाने में ध्यान. राइट, सो दैट इज ऑल्सो दैट विल बी देयर, बट द लॉन्ग टर्म प्रोसेस की अगर बात करें या लॉन्ग टर्म विजन्स की बात करें, वहाँ पे इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट that we should ensure that overcrowding and less number of people should be there. The prevention should be the prime focus. Now, construct a district prisoner complex. इसी context में एक example के तौर पे लेफ्टिनेंट गवर्नर ऑफ दिल्ली ने जो DDA है दिल्ली डेवलपमेंट अथॉरिटीज, उनको कहा कि 1.6 लाख स्क्वायर किलोमीटर की लैंड चाहिए होगी फॉर द कंस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ डिस्ट्रिक्ट prisoner complex. This shows that the number is increasing. That is the intention that actually the President of India wanted to convey, that we should not be building, we should be preventing, right? The officials claim that the prison has to be constructed in 2 phases with the high risk offenders and second, the under trials. Now, rethinking for the architecture in the phase 1, it is expected that this will be completed by 2024. High risk security complexes zone बनाई जाएगी जहाँ पे 250 risk of prisoners, high risk security prisoners को रखा जाएगा. The prisoners administration has incorporated a strict security measures which call for construction of high walls to prevent inmates from viewing others, interacting with others, and even building office space that is facilitating the surveillance system. Now, if you talk basically अगर कुछ philosophers की अगर बात करें, French philosophers Michael Foucault ने कहा है that extensive written about how architecture of prisoners is often used as a tool for surveillance, torture, and break the soul of inmates. Now, different prisoners की बात की गई है, how India can move out with the colonial era that is operating in the Indian prison system. The prison in India is still governed by the Prisoner Act of 1894, a colonial legislation that retreats prisoners with power with the citizen and even provide the legal basis for the punishment and redistributing rather than rehabilitative. तो हमें ज़रूरत है कि इस colonial era और ये rules को हटा करके rehabilitative policy की तरफ ध्यान दी जाए. These laws are also highly casteist and remain unchanged since they were drafted by the British. Further, Dalits, Adivasis are the people who are actually over-representative in Indian prisons. The National Dalit Movement for the Justice and the National Center for Dalit Human report that the criminal justice has shadowed the caste and explained that the social, systematic, legal and political barriers still continues. The primary reason was that the prison was overcrowded because in India, it has to be done enough truly the prevention of the crime. That is what I was talking about. The prevention of the crime in Indian context is very important. If you see the number of trials that is still going, 2 in 3 is under trial eligible for release but still in jail, right? So section 4, 36A of the Criminal Procedures Code provide for the release of the under trial who have undergone more than half of the prison terms and accused in offences, right? So these are the data. The yellow in color is for the eligible for the release, the green in color is for the released, and the blue in color is the percentage release. Now, the way forward and what should be the approach for the government and the stakeholders. So, our approach is to have a crime that should be preventive rather than reactive. We must have a preventive measures before we realize that what travel far in the down, and even the subject need to be have witnessed the kind that under necessary trauma and other unconfinement should not be there. We have to have an approach where prevention should be taken in the in occurrence of the crime. The President of India has timely said that the call by the President is something highlight the issues that definitely we must take a concession in the region and even for the non-cardinal ways. तो कुछ important highlights जिसके साथ आप आंसर्स कंक्लूड कर पाएंगे और कुछ ऐसे वेज जिस पे ध्यान देने की जरूरत है इज फर्स्ट द रिलीज ऑफ अनवेन एंड ओल्ड इनमेट्स, reducing the penalties, allowing bail at affordable cost, employing antisocial ways of holding people accountable for their crime, and expediting that trial. So this is how, if things are implemented, this will provide a long resolutions to the intimate, which actually is not getting the bail because some of the reason or other. So this is how you can suggest some of the measures in the main paper as well. Now, moving to the MCQ questions of the day, before I proceed, just to tell you the answers of yesterday questions. For first question, the correct option is C. For second question, the correct option is B. Today's MCQ for practice, like regarding the Maitri Setu project, it symbolizes the bilateral relationship between friendly countries, that is India and Sri Lanka. The project has been taken up by the Land Port Authority of India. So do check it out for the correct options. The second question for the day is with regards to the district tours, between which among the following countries: India, Sri Lanka, India, Japan, Russia, India, Afghanistan, and India, Uzbekistan. So you have to check for the correct option. And even practicing a lot more question with related to exercise, index, and contemporary question will build a strong foundation for the upcoming prelims examination. So this was all about for the daily news and editorial analysis, followed by the MCQ questions. If you have any other concern, you can let me know. I'll be more than happy to assist you. For time being, I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching this video.